back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about what held me back from bettering my photography. And I know that this is a question that so many people ask, is how to get past that point of feeling like you're just not getting better with your photography anymore and you're feeling a bit stagnant with your work. And I think that there's things that always hold us back when it comes to that point in our lives. And I think that every creative at one point or another experiences this. And that's why it's so relatable to hear about other people's experiences with things holding them back consistently. And I think I want to talk about today just a few things that have really held me back, and once I managed to get over those hurdles a little bit more, how that affected my work in the end, because maybe this will help other people out there who are struggling with just getting past that next speed hump and just really moving forward with their work. So I'm going to get straight into it today, and I think the first thing that really held me back from bettering my photography for a long time was the fact that I had a fear of failure. And not only did I have a fear of failure, it was not being able to really picture that successful career I had in mind anymore. I couldn't see myself in the future making a successful career from what I wanted to do, specifically with fashion and beauty photography. And that was so disheartening alone. I think it was so hard to find that confidence again to start pushing forward with my work. And I think to get over that speed hump initially, I didn't really do much to try and get over it. And I think that was one of the problems, is that I was just getting so disheartened with my work and not seeing that future anymore with fashion photography and earning a living, that it just didn't become a dream anymore for me. And that was really sad for me, because I had loved it for so long and I felt that there was just no way I was ever going to get to the point where I could earn money from it anymore. And that's really sad, and I think there's a lot of people out there that experience the same emotions that I did with that. The thing that ended up actually getting me over that hurdle in the end was the fact that I started to try something new with my photography, and I started to have more focus with what I was doing, and I posted more content consistently. And this was probably only happening over the course of around a couple of months, where I was just consistently posting content. And then I started getting quite a bit of an audience, in terms of people were asking me about doing shoots and what my rates were, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And I think that really gave me my confidence back to start doing what I loved and to find that new direction with my work. A lot of people were paying me to do work again, and I think as soon as I started getting that work and that recognition back, it felt like I could picture everything again, and I could see my life as a fashion photographer, and I could actually see it happening. And I think it's so important to be able to picture what you want your life to look like when you have these dreams of becoming a freelancer or a photographer or whatever you want to do. You just have to be able to picture it. And I think that was one thing that in the end I was able to do, and I was able to get over that speed hump. I'm not saying that down the track that might not happen again. Things go wrong all the time with our careers and things, you know, we always have those ups and downs, but I'm really happy that I know what to do, I think, in future if something like that happens again. And it's just to push forward and to keep posting your work and just trust that you are going to have that interest eventually. The second point that I want to make that really held me back from bettering my photography was the fact that I was too concerned with growing a social media audience. And especially for me, with having YouTube as well as Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and going across all these different social media platforms, I'd always had this real sense of needing to build my social audience. And I think from coming from DeviantArt initially, there was such a big thing about that there too, about getting followers, getting likes, getting comments about your work, and just living and feeding off that consistently. And I think in the end, that's not really what made me a better photographer. Getting followers or getting subscribers doesn't make me necessarily a better photographer than anyone else. And that's something that I had to really come down and realize, and it was a harsh reality to face, because I'd spent such a long time trying to build this social audience. And I'm not saying that that's not something that people will really need as photographers these days. I think it's very important to have a social media presence, but I think we have to stop looking at the likes, we have to stop looking at the comments and the subscribers, and sometimes just focus on your own work and where that's going, where that's heading, and whether you're improving it or not. The third point I have is about feeling jealous and upset with other people doing better than you, or being envious of other people's work and trying to meet those standards. And that's something that I feel like, I don't think I've ever met a photographer who hasn't experienced this at one point or another. And I think I started to realize that I was doing that when I was creating work that I felt wasn't truly mine. And I was trying to fit into that standard of, you know, that Instagram photographer that takes those vintage style portraits and how beautiful they are and how whimsical the photos looked. And that wasn't really my style at all. I think maybe my style has elements of that, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I was doing that because people really liked that. People really loved it on Instagram especially, and that was what was taking off at the time. And I think then I started to really find my own avenue with beauty. And I've said this oftentimes before, just trying that new thing for me that I really enjoyed. And it brought me back to my love of makeup as well, and something that I truly enjoyed and truly loved. So for me, that was one thing that really propelled my work, I think, forward, was just focusing on what I actually wanted to do and not necessarily looking at other people's work and feeling jealous of what they were doing all the time. I think jealousy is such a hard thing to deal with when you're in this industry, because it makes you look at your own work sometimes and despise your own work. And that's not how we should look at other people's work. I think we should always draw the inspiration when needed and then just keep that focus of your own work. I don't really see the point in going on Instagram, you know, 20 times a day looking at other people's work and just feeling down about yourself. I think if you've got your inspirations, keep them around and constantly just work harder to be inspired by them, not necessarily to be like them. My next point was all about getting complacent with my work and feeling jaded about it and not knowing why I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore. I think that was very upsetting for me to get to that roadblock and think, why am I not enjoying photography anymore? Why is this not something that I want to do every day? And I think I can put it down to the fact that I was doing location shoots for a good 10 years of my life, and I'd never really done anything different from that. I hadn't tried anything new for such a long time, and I think that that happens to everyone when you end up doing the same sorts of things, the same sorts of shoots for such a long time, and you maybe don't feel like you're getting anywhere with it. It doesn't become enjoyable anymore. It becomes a chore. And that was how I saw photography for quite a while, until I started doing beauty and started doing something new with my work and finding those other passions that I also had. So I think that being complacent is never that great of a thing. I think that you always have to be thinking of the next thing that maybe you want to move on to eventually, or just looking for that next inspiration or that next thing to really kickstart your work in a different direction. There's nothing wrong with taking a different direction with your work, and I think that's one thing that I found out very strongly in the last year or so. My last point that I want to make today that really held me back from bettering my photography is that I was really scared of jumping into studio work and to do studio photography. And I'm actually quite ashamed of how I looked at studio photography for such a long time. I looked at it as if it wasn't something that I needed. I had a very ignorant attitude towards it, and I almost at times felt like if you were a studio photographer, you were associating yourself with too much technical aspects of photography, and that is just so not wrong, but it seemed to be a vibe that most younger photographers had at the time, and natural light was key, and I think I just went with that flow and just didn't even bother to look into it, and that was such a wrong move for me. I wish I had have done that earlier, because I would have realized that I actually enjoyed a lot, and there's nothing wrong with doing studio photography. In fact, it's essential to really starting a career in fashion and beauty photography, because without studio lighting and without studios, it becomes a little bit more difficult, and it's quite a big standard that a lot of photographers have these days, and a lot of companies and brands expect you to be able to know. So I think that was one thing that I wish that I had started a lot earlier and not been so scared of it. It was intimidating knowing that there were so many different aspects of studio photography that I had to learn, and I didn't know what this modifier did and how many lights should you have in a setup, and it's expensive, and all these things always go around in your mind. But at the end of the day, it's small steps, and everyone starts in the same place. So it's all about just taking those small steps to where you really want to be and to experimenting with new and exciting things. So guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video, and hope you guys found it relatable, because I feel like I've spoken to many photographers on different occasions about these sorts of points, and I do think that a lot of people experienced these things at one point or another in their career. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and let me know what your insecurities are about your own work and what you feel like is holding you back at the moment from your photography, because I would love to hear other people's points of view from this. So thanks again guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!